Good.
All right. So you're Richard too?
Yes.
Okay, so we have Richard N and Richard R. All right. And you are?
Scot. Jacobsen.
Scott? Okay. All right. We're taping this game, so I'll do the verbal on the so you'll hear it.
Okay.
I got a mic.
9/10 of a second left.
I got a mic. They're taping, so I'm the voice on this game. But at halftime or. Good rotation right away. Good job, Scott. Yep, if it gets deep. Yep, if it gets deep, then you want to, rotate, get the game off to a quick start. Richard Rezek, I will call him Rick. And then Richard Nacottee, I will call him Richard. Good court coverage there. Rick was down as the lead. Richard was there as the C. Right. Good job, Richard, staying in as a C. I like to see an aggressive C, one who will make sure he takes that step down. As you come up court as a C, you want to make sure you focus on the players that will be establishing themselves in your primary. Don't worry about the ball handler coming up in transition. That'll be the trail's responsibility. In the summertime, it's always easy to kind of get a little lax on actual mechanics. But what you want to do is make sure you stay with good habits. In a case where you have a ball going out of bounds, a violation, whatever, make sure you stop the clock. Get your arm up, stop the clock, then you can follow through with your directional signal. Using the same arm, hopefully, as you use to stop the clock, you can also use that arm for a directional signal. Richard, you want to make sure that you're engaged in the action as the new trail. Make sure you drop down, get to the 28-foot mark, and then on a shot attempt, you want to step down towards the end line. The C should be doing the same thing in that situation. On any shot attempt, both the trail and the C should be taking a step or two down towards the end line. As a crew, you want to stay in the front court until the ball actually changes possession. That player control foul, Scott, would be a lot stronger. You want to come out and sell that hard. In a case where you hesitate slightly, where you're looking undecided on whether that's a blocking foul or a player control foul, you want to come out strong. Come out with your arm high with a foul and then going behind your head to indicate that you've got a strong player control foul. As soon as the ball goes into someone's hands at the free throw line, you want to get your rotation going. You don't want to be on the other side as the player catches the ball at the free throw line. makes a couple ball fakes, and in that instance then decides to go to the basket. You're putting a trail into a tough situation in the event that there's a screen, the C, if there might be a screener or the ball handler decides to spin towards or away from him. While we like to make sure that we take away hand checks, that call by Rick right there is kind of a marginal situation. The ball handler's moving forward. The defender's hand might get caught on his shoulder, but he's really gained no advantage or done anything to stop his rhythm, speed, balance, or quickness. If you let the play finish and he keeps that arm up on his shoulder as he continues his drive or his progression with the ball, then you can make that foul call. A patient whistle in that situation would work a little bit better. And right there, I applaud Rick for being patient. Right there, he waited till the play finished, saw the contact arm on arm, and then as the player got to the ground, he came up with his foul call. That's a good piece of officiating right there. And as I said, you want to see that same kind of patient whistle as the trail or the C. Let the play finish, and you can still come in later with the call. Richard, you don't want to get your whistle going in that situation.
Yeah, that was his.
Yep. That's his sideline, or his end line, I should say. Right. Again, going back to mechanics, you want to get your visible count as the trail official as soon as the ball is inbounded and the ball is going in transition to the front court. Always be in the habit of having your 10-second count going. If the player were to lose the dribble, bounce it off of his leg, whatever the case might be, you don't want to take that situation for granted, because at that point, someone, be it a coach on either end, is going to want to know why you're not counting.
Ryan, follow the play. Follow the play.
Okay. All right. Scott, you want to make sure that you stay focused on your primary. If there's not a competitive matchup in your primary, you don't want to get into any kind of a ball watching situation. So it's easy to do. All of us do it. But again, stay ready for a competitive matchup that may develop in your primary. Okay. That's it. Good job. That's a nice job there, Richard. That's a good, solid player control foul. It was good mechanic. Punch it the other way. Okay, yep. And that's the right mechanic too. You go table side after you make that call. Whoever was the table side official, in this case if it was Scott, he comes and replaces you opposite table. As a crew, and I know Rick's heard me say this a number of times over the weekend, you want to stay engaged on the play. as a crew. Step down to get a better angle. On rebounding situations, you definitely want to step down as an outside official. When you get a chance to, Richard, look at that sequence where you just made that call. Again, stop the clock, make your violation call, and then give your directional signal. Follow your normal procedure for mechanics. Slow down, and I would tell this to all of our crews, slow things down. As officials, we pretty much have control over the tempo of the game. So take your time, take care of business the way you're supposed to. You don't want to take shortcuts. Good, good. Everybody's in a good position here. Yep. Richard is down as the trail at about the 28-foot mark. Scott is down a little bit deeper as the C. That's exactly where you want to be as a crew. You want to be in the frame, as we like to say. If this game was being televised, you want to see all three officials in the frame. Good job by Rick to bring in officials. Everybody's looking, eye contact, making sure we have one free throw left. Remember, as the new lead in transition, make sure you're looking behind you. As you're coming up the floor as the new lead, make sure you look behind you in case there's a play where if the ball gets tipped or thrown out of bounds and the trail doesn't have a look at the situation, you as the lead looking backward might have to help the trail with the play call as to who has the ball. Good. Yep. Good job, Scott. Stay in your primary as a C, and then you can rotate after the play is moved out of your primary. Right, good. Right. Right. One thing that helps make the rotation situation easier as the lead, depending on the situation as to where the ball is, start just inside the three-point arc. If this play goes to the middle of the floor, you then move to the close down position. If it goes opposite side of you now, then you can make your rotation across the lane with a purpose. And by that I mean rotate in order to take pressure off of the C if he has more than 4 players in his primary, or if you know that there's an entry pass about to go into the post. In camps that I've been to, a lot of clinicians have said just go to the close down position right away. As soon as you come down the court, go right to the close down position right on the free throw lane line. But as time has gone by, we still want to make sure that we stay wide in our angles, even at the lead, to give ourselves the best view possible. You can always move to the close down position as the ball moves across. You'll hear the term mirror the ball all weekend here. And as the lead, that's what you can do. Right? We don't want to end up with 2 leads here, which is what we have. All right, good recognition there by Rick. But take a half a second as you're going down the floor to look and see where your partners are. You can avoid the 2 leads. take a look at that play. Scott, that's a good call, but with your signal, you had a player control foul. By going up with your foul call and then driving your fist out, that's a team control or a player control foul. So that may cause some confusion amongst your partners. If you've got a foul by a defender, just give the foul call. You don't want to give the team or player control foul when it's not warranted. Richard, you may want to look at that 3 with about 4:52 left in the first half, because when the player started with his try, he was at the 3-point sign. But when he finished his 3-point try, his foot was inside the line, so it should have been a 2. Right? Okay. Richard came with a defensive foul, but again, by not taking time and just kind of sorting through it, he came out with the same team or player control foul. There definitely was a foul there, but again, you want to take your time and give the correct signal. Just as Scott had done before, Richard, you did the same thing. You made a player and a team control signal. In the excitement of the play, you want to make sure that you're keeping your demeanor and your body language very calm. Now, I know you can come out hard to sell the call, but in that situation, you've got just what appears to be a normal foul. There's a travel. Yep. But that travel call should come from the trail. The lead will be watching the ball handler as he makes his drive to the basket, waist up. The mechanic is waist up for the lead. The trail has a look at his feet and knows if his pivot foot has gone up and down. Richard, you had a good angle on that. Where I'm standing, I didn't. But take a look at that play and see if you can remember whether there was any contact on the shooter. Looked like an arm across an arm, but again, it could have been a block attempt. And as a crew, watch their pivot feet. I've seen 3 travels go uncalled so far, where the player, once he makes that whip move, bringing the ball across his body, he hasn't gotten the ball to the floor or out of his hands yet, and he's already moved both feet. So you want to get those travel calls. Right. Rick made a call right here with about 1:42 left in the half, but he's at the C. Richard is the trail official. The ball is still clearly in his primary. That's his call. Now, that was a foul. Rick probably could have waited to see if Richard was going to make that call or not, versus just coming out and getting it. But again, that's Richard's primary, and Richard should have had that whistle at least a second before Rick would have. Good call there by Rick. The defender clearly moved into and pushed the offensive player. Right. You want to stay down, Richard, so you're in the play. Yep. 1 minute left. Yep, Rick's giving the 1 minute sign. Okay. Yep. As the clock winds down, we want to make sure that the opposite table official has the clock. In this case, the clock is in Scot's hands. Okay. All right, if nothing's happening with the ball, you can just clearly look and see, all right, what are the other 9 players doing? All right, now the clock is winding down. The ball handler will look to attack the rim. All the officials should start their movement towards the basket. Tough shot by the young man from East to make that 3. All right, and we have halftime. All right, now we get to start the second half. We talked about some of the things that I mentioned in the first half. So from a mechanic standpoint, a positioning standpoint, and a crew involved or acclimated standpoint, we're hoping that all of that will get better. All right, good. Yep. Great. Rick, you want to make sure you recognize the rotation. Good. Now you see it. All right, good. All right. Yep. Good. Yep. We get our shooter to the floor. Yep, everybody stay on your primary now. Find a competitive matchup in your primary and focus on that. Trust that your partner has the ball in their primary, and then you take care of the players in your primary. All right, good rotation, good. Okay, good. All right, start down. You can take a step down, Scott, on that drive. Yeah, I said once that drive starts, you can take a step down. You know, up here you probably won't see much, but if you move with the ball, you'll still have a good angle. You won't get straight lined. Another mechanic for our C on the free throw. Once that ball is released by the shooter, the C then puts his outside arm up for the clock, and then also will step down to help out with rebounding and get a good look at the two players opposite lane line in the top two spots. Those are the responsibilities of the C. The lead will have the three players opposite him in the lane and the one player closest to him. All right, now we have a timeout. All right. If either team wants to put pressure in the backcourt, we want to make sure that the C stays engaged. On any shot, the C typically should wait a second or two before he starts to go with the ball into the front court. If there is pressure with the C staying there, he'll be in a good position to help the new trail officiate any kind of an action, any kind of double team, or in the case where the ball may go all the way across the court, that will be the C's responsibility to take that opposite sideline. Right. With the timeout, in cases where a crew hasn't worked together before, it's always a good idea to get together, talk about anything that you've seen now at the start of the second half, anything that may be different in terms of what the team does offensively or defensively. Right. Okay. Again, as a C, Scott, you probably want to start out just above the top of the key in the backcourt. If there's a play at the division line where there may be a possible over and back violation, that will be the responsibility of the C to see that play. Sorry. No. Oh, all right. I'm fine. Thank you. Good defense. All right. A good hustle by number 12. Prior to him making the play here, though, you were going to want to look at the tape. When the ball was in the front court for Black, did number 12 White stay vertical in his defensive attempt? Or did he initiate some kind of illegal contact by bringing his right arm down? Right. Scott, you're going to want to drop just a little. Nice drive by the East player. All right, there's pressure here. All right, good job. Nice pass. All right. Both teams seem to be a little bit softer defensively. As a trail here, Scott, you're a little bit too high yet. You want to get down another step or two. Good, good. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Once that ball goes in the air, you can step down, make sure you're in position for rebounding. Good. Yep. Good. Yep. Richard's where he can be effective as a trail, just about the 28-foot mark. Okay, yep, he has a good look. All right, now the play, once it goes into the lane, the C has a good look at it as the play comes to him. Yep, good. This is really good here. In this particular sequence, everybody's in good position. Yep, and Rick comes out with a good foul call, takes that drive to the basket. Yep, that's a good sequence right there. Very good sequence. Scott's down a step or two as the C beneath the free throw line extended. Richard is right about 28 feet, and Rick is in the close down position on a drive. That's just a really solid job by this crew in that sequence. Okay, good job. Richard following through on his mechanics, starting with the clock, arm, and then doing the visible count. Okay. Yep, good rotation. All right, good job. All right, Rick, you want to stay focused on your post matchup. All right, ball on the court. One of the hazards of having courts side by side. But yeah, getting back to my point, you know, Rick, as the lead, you want to make sure that your eyes stay in the post area. You don't want to go all the way out, you know, close to the three-point line. Okay, all right, there you go, good. Oh, a lot of contact there, Richard. Number 50, White, got all over an airborne shooter from East, so you definitely want to come out and get that call. He was vertical initially, but then moved forward into an airborne shooter. In that case, if Richard doesn't see that contact clearly, that's a situation where Scott as the C can come in on a secondary call and make that call. All right, the rotation has started. All right. I always like to make a point, especially if they're a video of a game, on a travel call, make sure that you have a travel. We've always said that unless you're not sure, don't put air in the whistle. And in that case, again, I didn't have the angle that Richard did, but just for your own sake, as a crew, take a look at that travel call and see if that young man from East who was stuck in the lane with the ball actually did pick up or slide his pivot foot. His pivot foot was his left one. And again, as a crew, as an official, find the pivot foot and make sure that once he gathers the ball, where's that pivot foot? Okay. Yeah. One of the points of emphasis this weekend is to get the hand checks, those kind of fouls that certainly could make things difficult or sloppy later on if you're not calling them. Oh, nice dish. I didn't have a good look on the play where Rick just made a foul call on the rebound off a missed shot. But again, the point I want to make is to have a patient whistle. You know, let the play finish. You can always come in late if the contact continues, if it is in fact illegal, but be sure of that. I saw the frustration on the part of the white player, the defender at that point, and certainly that. That last dunk attempt, it might have been, there's a blocking foul. Yep. But that last dunk attempt might have been one of the most ridiculous things I've seen this weekend. That young man wasn't even close to the rim. See, now the coach is asking a question about whether that was a shot attempt or not. That was a good call by Rick. Once the player gathers the ball, he is no longer a ball handler. That starts the try by rule. So that was the correct call by Rick. It was a shot attempt as the player, the defender, tried to block his path to the rim. One of the points to be made as well is to always take the opportunity to practice your mechanics. You want to be crisp on your calls. You want to be smooth and look like you've done this for a long, long time. In Richard's case, he had a travel call, but you don't want it to be real lackadaisical. You want it to be nice and crisp. Arm up to stop the clock. Good, strong motion with your arms for the travel. You spot the direction with your one arm, and then you point to where the ball will be coming in for your partner. So you want to be crisp and smooth on your mechanics. Okay, that's a good call right there by Rick. The play came on his side of the lane. Scott had a good secondary whistle, though. I have no problem with double whistles in that situation. As long as you give way to the actual primary official to have him go to the table with the call. I don't have a problem with a double whistle. Certainly you want to make sure you minimize double whistles, because in some cases evaluators are going to look at you and think that you've got two players or two officials watching the same primary, and that's not what you want to have. So. Okay, yep. Richard, you can force that rotation as the C, bring Rick over as the lead when that ball is being pressured higher than above the free throw line. That's the case where we talked about where you can force that rotation to get the lead to come over and help you while you're working against ball pressure higher in your primary. Take a look at that play, Scott, on the three-point try with about 5 minutes to go. As the lead official, you don't want to be focusing on a three-point shooter who's outside the arc. That's going to be your trail's responsibility to be on that play, all right? Your job as the lead, as in that case, is to get to the closedown so that if there's a shot attempt, you're there to watch rebounding, and you're also there to see any competitive matchup in the post. Your eyes don't want to be out to the three-point line because that's the trail's responsibility. All right, you want to stay here, Richard, because if there's pressure, you want to help your trail. All right, good job, Rick. You want to trail the play. Trail the ball all the time as the trail official. All right, watch the ball handler here. He's extending his arm. All right, Richard, this is your sideline. So I know that the ball was going into the other court, but you still want to officiate your sideline. At that point, your left arm goes up to stop the clock and then goes down to point the direction of the ball, staying in the front court for black. But make sure you officiate. The ball will come back from that other court. Why these players who can't dunk are attempting to dunk is beyond me. There's a foul. All right, Richard, you've got to get your mechanic right there, though. You blew your whistle, and then you gave a pushing sign to the defender who was guilty of the foul. Good call, but again, you want to get your mechanic, proper here. Arm goes up, you signal your foul, you post your foul, and then you tell your partners what you have and what's going to happen next. If you have a 1-and-1, you give the foul call, you look at your partners and say, we have a 1-and-1, here's my shooter. All right. The one thing I haven't seen from our crews in most cases today is, I've got your shooter. And again, that's something that we've talked about throughout the weekend as well. The calling official has a foul. If we're shooting free throws, one or the other two officials should be identifying the shooter so we make sure we get the right person at the line. Again, not working together before is no longer an excuse. You have to be able to identify your shooter. Okay. All right. I don't want to harp on it, but again, mechanics are a big part of this. Yes, I know it's summer ball, but you have to go through your mechanics properly. If there's a play where the ball goes out of bounds, you stop the clock with your one arm and you signal with that same arm the direction that the ball will be going, if it's going into the front court for the other team. Okay. All right. We don't want to have two officials marking a three attempt. All right. Yes. Good job, Richard. Good job. Yep. Get in there right away. Right away. The frustration may be building on both sides, but you want to make sure that nothing gets out of hand. All right, we have a bonus situation. And again, we had a bonus situation on the last time down the court. So as a crew, we want to make sure that we're mentally engaged into the game as well. Once we shoot a bonus, all three officials should be on the same page that every foul after that results in a bonus free throw, single or double, or obviously a two-shot foul for a shot attempt. But for the last minute and a half, we want to know that we have a bonus free throw situation on every white team foul. All right. Okay. Good job, Rick. Yep, that's the way to be aggressive as the new lead. Good call. Good call, Rick. That's a good call. The ball handler got knocked sideways in his transition from ball handler to shooter, and he had started up with a shot, so that's a good call. All right. In a close game like this, it's probably wise or advisable as officials to start to become a little tighter on everything. And by that I mean stay closer to the players physically so that everything that happens, you're right on top of it. You know, if there's a foul, you know, a push, all right, the lead needs help right here, all right. The C has to see that, or the trail, to go in and help the lead. All right, that's a good job of coming together. All right, he's gotten information from his partners. All right, that's a good job by the crew to make sure that we have the right direction for the play. All right, we just saw a screener get bowled over by a player in black. Okay. The lead has the inbounds play as far as where the ball winds up. But in that situation, a trail official should be looking in, and as soon as that screener got wiped out, the trail comes in with a foul call and takes a clear step or two towards the play to sell that call. All right? No screener should get wiped out like that without a whistle. If Rick is focusing on the throw-in and who's going to be catching that on a screen like that, the other sideline official has to come in and get that screener getting taken out. All right. Well, give credit to Marshfield, the team in white. They're going to stay in it with 39.4 seconds to go and down 5. All right, let's get a recap of where we are. All right, we have 39.4 seconds, 5-point game. Obviously, any foul on black from this point on results in 2 shots.
I mean on white.
On white, right? But
I know what you mean.
Yeah. But they'll get to shoot their free throws. So we shouldn't have anybody pointing to a spot on a foul or whatever. We know we're going to the foul line, right? Make sure we know timeouts, okay? And alternate.
No timeouts. We have 2 per game.
I think he's done.
Okay.
They might have 1.
All right. So check that with the table, and then also know who's got the alternate possession, because that comes in. Yep. Okay. Right. So make sure everybody knows that we're all on the same page at this point. Okay. Yep. You want to make sure that we're clear on fouls, remaining timeouts, and possession for AP. right, communicate. All right, good. Good communication. Everybody knows what the status is. All right, identify the shooter. Who's our shooter? Who's our shooter? All right. All right, again, we want to make sure that the crew verbalizes that they've got the shooter. All right. The last thing you want in this situation is for a coach to take a timeout. The teams come out of a timeout, and then you have the wrong shooter at the line. You know, it could be someone who's a better free throw shooter, but again, you verbalize the shooter from the outset. Who's our shooter? Yep. Verbalize our shooter, guys. While it is apparent who our shooter is in most cases, it's still something that as a crew, as an individual official, you want to definitely get into the habit of doing. Now that's where you come together as a crew. All right. All right. Now you've got a real storm brewing in this situation. All right. There was a steal, and from the angle that I had, all right, the player was dribbling with the ball and hadn't gathered it yet when the foul call was made. So by that, we're not shooting. And certainly, I don't know that we're shooting three. So take a look at this once you get a chance to, and as a crew, review this together. Because if there's a foul call made there, and another official has a different look or a different view as to whether it was a shooting foul or whether it was a three-point try, come together as a crew. It's better to get it right than to just leave something stand if it's not right. Right? The fact that the free throws weren't made might have saved the crew.
No adult over in charge over here. Just line up.